Hey guys, it's LMC, and today we're going to be looking at the top 10. We're going to be looking at the best general ones, just what cars are best known for drifting in a general sense. So we're going to be looking at a lot of different cars, manufacturers, even different genres of car. Up first, we've got the Mazda Miata. Now, these are known for being small, light, and good. They're easy to learn drifting because it's not a very large chassis, you're not going to hit them. Not only that, they're great black. Just from the get-go, it's already rear-wheel drive. You get them in a manual variant. They're not too expensive, although they are getting pricey now. The one we're looking at here is a new MX-1. It's not the old style one that we just looked at in the slideshow. These are a bit more expensive, and this one is fitted with a rotary, and this is pretty much what Mazda's known for. It sets it apart from the rest. It sounds unreal. None of that, mix that with the little look of it and how unsuspecting it is. Oh, man, you can't get much better than that. Alright, so up next we got the Toyota Sora, or the SC300. So this is one of the more lesser known drift cars, but it's still an unreal car. It's nonetheless. This car is known for its 2JZ. It's one of the only other cars that ever come out with it, which is, if you didn't know, that engine comes with a like Supra. That's what it would be most known for. I think it comes with a Crown as well. But, this is a great platformer, and they're still quite cheap because they're a bit of a lesser known drift car compared to like Sylvia or something that's more known for it. This is a bit lower of a barrier entry. Then you can pick these up for like 20 grand. It depends where you live, obviously. They still sound unreal. Mix that with the light chassis, you've got a pretty good base for a drift car. Not only that, they had different luxury models and different kits as well to make it look completely different. The car looks unreal. It's got a bit of a VIP look to it with a bit of silver inspired in it. Up next we got the BMW E30. These cars are known for their just old school classy look, and they definitely pull it off. As you can see right here, this is an unreal example. They come out with a 6-cylinder originally, but people put V8s in them, all kinds of things, LSs, 2Js. These are known for having all kinds of different engines in. They're great for them because they've got a pretty big engine bay. Not to say the original engine is good, but you can definitely say it's a great platform to add different combinations of LSs or turbo engines to it. And it just looked classy as hell doing it. I have listened to this thing, unreal. Up next is a Nissan 350Z, or 370Z. Now this is honestly my least favourite car on this list, but it is a brilliant drift car nonetheless, and you'll see that if you go to any drift day anywhere, you'll see at least one 350 or 370Z. They're just the most common drift car to get because they're cheap. You can drift them straight from the get-go. I'm fairly sure they come with an LSD. They have 17-inch rims, like they're manual. You can get them like they're rear drive. What more would you want? Not only that, they're very well balanced. Mix the balance in with just great combination of parts. There's so many different things you can get for these cars. Like, people have been working on it for years now. They've got just about anything you'd want to do to whether drag, drift, and mix that with putting different engines in these cars. So, like, there is some unreal 350, like 370s out there. Up next we have the Subaru BRZ or the Toyota 86, or even the Scion. There's a couple of different variants of this, as they all share the same base chassis, just different variants between the Boxer motor or the Toyota's version. These cars have gained in a lot of popularity lately. Like, they're a great chassis just because they start in manual. You can get them rear drive. Like, you can't get them rear drive, they are, but you can get them in a manual. They're just a great combo straight from the go. They're a bit more on the pricey side, being I think they start like 25, because they're still a fairly new car in the drift scene, but they're up there with the 350Z and just commonness. If you go to a drift day, you'll most likely see a Scion or a Toyota 86. That's not to say they're a great drift car. Like, a lot of people use them for, or like, they obviously work if a lot of people are using. There's FD spec ones. People have put 2JZs in these. There's a crazy amount of things you can do from that. The amount of modifications, like look, this is a fully kitted out one, just as an example. It can look crazy, like that doesn't even look like the standard version anymore. And the sound, oh, you can't beat it. Up next is the absolute legend, the Toyota A86. If anyone's watched Initial D, this car needs no introduction at all. This is a very well-known legendary car just for its 50-50 balance ratio. It is nimble to 4AGE, it's manual rear-wheel drive. They used to be cheapest, but they're called beer cans for a reason. They're cheap, they just get around perfectly, the handling on them, oh, unreal. If you go to Japan, going to anywhere like Ebisu or anywhere in them areas, like going to a race course, you will see an astounding amount of A86s. You don't see them much elsewhere because they're a bit more pricey. These cars have gone to like ridiculous amounts like now, just because of the Initial D craze. They're still a legendary car though, you cannot beat that. Even if the movie or the TV show may have glorified the price a little bit too, like, I think these cars go for 60 to 80 grand now if you can get a really low pay, really good example of it, but most of them have been drift to death. Especially in Japan, you'll see these things looking like they're held together with screws. Up next, the Mazda RX7. We're getting into some more legendary cars now. Not to say the other ones weren't legendary, but this should need no introduction at all. The Mazda RX7, the car that almost, how would you say, inspired all of us to love rotary so much. This was probably my first introduction to a completely done up rotary, and seeing it in this spec, full FD, unreal levels. Just the car is phenomenal. Look at the way it handles. It's just, even though this has Bridgeport 4 rotor in it, which is not the original engine, I'm fairly sure it just comes with a 2 rotor 13V. These things can be done up. They may not be the most reliable cars, but they can be done up to sounding like monsters. Up next, Nissan Silvia. You all saw it coming. Of course, this is going to be on the list. This is easily one of the most well-known drift cars in the world. When you think of drifting, this is probably the car that comes to your head. Either this or a 240, which is, they're very similar chassis in a sense, because they are the perfect drift cars. In a lot of ways, a lot of people would say these cars are the best drift car, just because they're almost made for it. Manual from the factory, rear-wheel drive. You get a turbo variant with the SR20. Red tops are known for making good power, like reliably. You can push 400 horsepower out of that front end all day long, drift it for 8 hours or something, and it'll be pretty reliable for it. Not many engines can do that, just keep up with it, and the chassis just keeps giving the handling on it perfect. You can see it just flows, but the car was made to be doing this. Mix that with the absolute massive aftermarket support, mate, the possibilities are endless. There's full FD spec versions of this, everything. Next up is the legendary Godzilla. It should have been on first, but it was a bit tight. This is, with no introduction, one of the best cars in the world. This is Godzilla. It's made it's made magazines back in the day for being one of the fastest cars in the world. It even is like banned. These cars are absolutely just phenomenal. You cannot find much better cars. They're quite expensive. If you want to drift one of these, you've got to have a bit of coin, with most of them being around the $80,000 mark, or a good version, not a GTST, but if you want an actual GTR, you're looking at a lot of money. You can get cheaper versions, but just not with the legendary RB26. say nonetheless, but these cars are almost made for it. Look at it, just flying around like it's a dove in water. There's a reason these cars will be banned in some countries. As you can see, they're just the best at what they do. Going quick, sideways, a lot of smoke, just the noise coming out of it. Unfortunately, but mixed with the fact that these things can look so different around here. Up next, only because it's my favourite, and it's questionably a lot of people's favourite. I was tied between the Skyline and this very much, but this is my personal favourite car, so it had to make Toyota Supra. Now, I think most people would know what this car is, just because it is easily the most famous car Toyota has ever made. Besides the Corolla, obviously, that is the most famous car in the entire world, but not famous, but it's the most sold. Either way, the Toyota Supra is on a league of its own. It is a legend for a good reason. This car is, without a doubt, the best drift car. Leave down in the comments what you guys think. What you guys would pick as the #1 drift car, because for me, this is definitely it. If I was going to have one, for sure, all day long, that'd be the one right there. Listen to this fucking unreal. Thanks for watching.